Hey guys, Mr. Mimikyu here, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing a team that brought me about 100 points in the Go Battle League. Here my opponent leads with Bastiodon, I lead with Trevenant. Now, it all depends whether or not if Trevenant can beat Bastiodon in the 1-to-1 shield. I'm going to shield up here because Flamethrower would be doing a lot of damage here. He goes into his own Trevenant, I go into Noctowl, and basically I can just farm him down. There's no reason for me to shield. Everything here is resisted. Shadow Ball is double resisted. Seed Bomb is single resisted. It wouldn't be like a shambling to see Trevenant run Foul Play, because Foul Play is not a move that you would usually run on Trevenant though, since its damage is pretty pitiful, and the only time that makes sense to run Foul Play is on Umbreon as well as Mandibuzz, since they do make more sense to them. And here my opponent shielded a Shadow Ball, which is kind of awkward, and then they shielded a Sky Attack. The Sky Attack wouldn't have killed you anyways. What gives? Hello? Here I go back into Trevenant here. I can just go for a Seed Bomb and knocks them out. All they have left is a Machamp, and they just quit. Moving on to the next match here, we have is a Galarian Stunfisk. Now, the only difference is that G-Fisk has more resistances than Bastiodon and doesn't have a double weakness like Basti does. Here they can just hit us for neutral Rock Slide, whereas with Bastiodon it can hit Trevenant for super effective Flamethrowers. Here we can go for a Shadow Ball on the CMP tied to the next Rock Slide. I'm going to shield up just to be safe though, and try to go for a farm down, but I'm unable to. I'm just going to throw in the Seed Bomb just to be safe, grab a shield or so, but nope, they let it go. They have Pelipper. I know it seems risky for me to Shadow Ball right away, but I just want to do some damage. But of course they shield it, and I'm unable to get off a Seed Bomb. I can line up the Lantern. They have Deoxys now, and I can just go into Noctowl. We can tank one move though, since even though Rock Slide and Thunderbolt are super effective, I think usually with Deoxys defense you would mainly run Thunderbolt as opposed to Rock Slide, because there are so many flyers. Even though Rock Slide is super effective against flyers, but it does less damage though, however, since with Rock Slide you can do coverage against the bug types, though there aren't any good bug types there are in the Great League though, as well as the Ultra League, since they're pretty weak, and the only one I would know of in the Ultra League is Scizor, and even then Scizor just gets absolutely shredded by Talonflame. Here my opponent threw in a Weather Ball, and I decided to call it, and they just get knocked out by a Thunderbolt, and we can just spark down the Lantern. We decided to shield just to be safe so that a Psycho Boost would not KO us, and that's a good game, well played. To be fair, I actually did get a 5-0 on my on my last set, and as you can see at the time of this taping of the video when I did it, because oh my goodness, I just did some Fighting Cup remix and it just really baffled me of how bad it is though, since single type metas are just stupid though. I don't know why Niantic is doing this though. Yeah, we have the Electric Cup. What's next? The Rock Cup, where you can only use rock type Pokemon with Sudowoodo and the Midnight form Lycanroc being banned. Is it the Midnight form? I'm not too sure. Or it could be the Dusk form. I just can't remember offhand, because I know it is the one that has Counter, because the other has Sucker Punch, because the Midday form has Sucker Punch, while the Dusk form has Counter, which would be doing super effective, and Sudowoodo would also be banned because it has Counter, so it makes sense to ban those two. Imagine the Ghost Cup. I would basically allow Ghost type Pokemon, but with no Sableye, because it's a Dark type, and it wouldn't be fair to have a cup where it's just mainly centered around Sableye. And here my opponent having a Trevenant, we could just go into Lantern. We try to catch the Hurricane, but that's okay. They throw it in, doesn't do a lot of damage. We're pretty tanky here. I'm just going to go for the complete farm down. Not before long, they hit us with another move, suspecting it's a Hurricane. We survive that, and we could just go for Thunderbolts here. One to bring it down low, and then the other get closer to the red, and it's pretty much a good game. And of course, Trevenant can win CMP against DD, and I'm fine with it letting it go. I could just go for a Shadow Ball. I know it's overkill, but I didn't want to take a Psycho Boost, and that's a good game, well played. Next opponent having a Galvantula. Now, this is pretty awkward because Galvantula does beat the back line, mainly Noctowl, because Discharge does super effective damage, while Lunge does neutral to Trevenant. Here I bait with a Seed Bomb. I know Galvantula is very glassy, and most people that use it tend to shield the first two charge moves since Galvantula is a very glassy Pokemon. We grab both shields, which is nice. I'm just going to let this go. I don't think I need Trevenant anymore, and that's fine with me. We can let Trevenant go down. We go into Lantern. I didn't want to risk like taking super effective damage from the Volt Switches because Volt Switch would be doing super effective. Here my opponent having a Medicham, I can just let this go. It's an Ice Punch, which really caught me off guard here because usually when you run Medicham, you're supposed to build up to the Psychic, not throw Ice Punch right away. He was probably suspecting my switch, which I bring it in, and they have a Mandiba. So I think this is probably a GG's well played because, like, you know, since we have one shield, they have 0, so I guess maybe it's because they shielded because Medicham didn't want to face off against Trevenant, and they know for a fact they can't just go straight in the Mandibuzz because then I would just wall him with Lantern, doing super effective with Spark and Thunderbolt. Here I decided to shield to keep the Noctowl fairly healthy, and you know, it's all fun and games. I'm just going to build up to the Sky Attack so he can't get off another foul play, and here I'm going to shield up the Ice Punch just to be safe and, you know, try and get to the Sky Attack, but I'm unable to. And you know what? We can just like Spark down with Lantern, or we can just throw in a Surf. I throw in a Surf. I know it's overkill, but I just didn't want him doing some excess chip damage, and that's a good game well played. Moving on to the next opponent, we got Gengar. Now, Gengar is pretty tricky here because you're supposed to switch after you throw 5 Shadow Claws to try and see if you can catch the Shadow Punch, which I am successful to do. And of course, he has his Bastion. And of course, we all know that Bastion feasts flyers, any flyer, because no matter the flying type, they just get shredded by Basti because of the tremendous amount of bulk it has. And even with the XL candy, it is so tanky. Sometimes I always wonder if the XL would be better, and it turns out it is because the XL has so much bulk that its defenses are just sky high. Whoa. Now I go into Lantern here as opposed to Trevenant because I didn't want to get hit by a Flamethrower. They throw in another Stone Edge, which caused me to get a free Spark. I'm going to shield here to preserve health. I'm going to try and see if I can farm all the way down. And I am unfortunately not able to do that, but at least I can get off a Surf to do some chip damage. They have a Medicham. He goes back into Gengar. Now, this is pretty tricky because I'm down 1 shield. He has 2, and oh my goodness, this is just really pressurizing me. I'm going to throw in a Shadow Ball just to be safe here to try and see if we could do big damage because we're not able to grab another move. So might as well just go for a cheaper move. I shield up in case it was Psychic, but it ends up becoming an Ice Punch. I'm going to throw in the Thunderbolt to try and see if we can get it down into the red. Close enough. And of course, they're going to throw in a move. But I'm able to win CMP, I think. I'm not too sure if Lantern does win CMP, and that is a good game well played. And of course, that was the 5-0 in the set. Moving on to the next match, Trevenant Mirror. Now, Trevenant Mirror is very troublesome because you don't know if theirs is going to win CMP. I know mine wouldn't because, well, let's be real, because, like, Trevenant isn't that tanky. I'm going to go into Noctowl, and of course, he has a Lantern now. It's so weird that we're running the same team, it feels like. I'm reading that this is Trevenant, Lantern, and Noctowl, like the new team. And of course, I'm going to shield up the Thunderbolt last minute, and I'm able to do so. Here, I could have just gone for a Sky Attack here to grab a shield or something, but we bring it down into the red. It was CMP to the next Thunderbolt, which he froze. I'm able to shield it, and now maybe, just maybe, and I catch the Surf. Is it Surf or maybe another Thunderbolt? But it ends up becoming a Surf. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to wait out my clock here and see what I can do. He goes into Noctowl, and he just quits the match. Moving on to the next match, we got a Shadow Dragonite. Now, Shadow Dragonite can be quite scary because, like, the damage output is quite oppressive, though, not gonna lie, because, like I'm already down towards half, and, like, oh my goodness, the damage is just so... Oh my goodness, I hate it so much. Like, at this point, I feel like Dragon Breath should probably get its damage reduced, but at the same time, it would make several Pokemon kind of fluctuate in a way, because, like, if you get what I'm saying, then sure. Here I throw in a Seed Bomb last minute, and I go down. I'm going to go into Noctowl to try and see what Ferrothorn can do to me. I shielded because I thought he was going to throw in a Thunder, but it ends up becoming a Zap Cannon, which, oh my god, it really caught me off guard. And there's no way I'm going to win this now. With Trevenant dead, there's nothing I can do here. And honestly, like, I don't usually expect Flash Cannon from Ferrothorn because you usually expect Bullet Seed, Power Whip, and Thunder. And in some cases, Mirror Shot. Although Mirror Shot's quite chaotic, though, because, like, it has a 30% chance to lower the opponent's attack, but it just isn't suiting Ferrothorn's use because it makes it very inconsistent, and knowing how to bait properly is just, yeah. Here I'm going to build up some energy. Here he brings back in the Ferrothorn, and I'm going to throw in a Sky Attack. Here I should have thrown an extra Wing Attack, but I was scared that I would lose CMP against his Lantern, and here he just throws in a Surf, and that basically ends the streak though. But yeah, a 6-win streak isn't too bad, but I like it though. Next opponent having a Medicham. Now, I don't know why I'm getting like all these good leads though, to be fair. Like, oh my gosh, it's just, wow. Really mind boggles me, of course. And here he throws an Ice Punch, does over half. He goes into Lickitung. I saved the Trevenant for later. He probably went into Lickitung because he thought I was going to throw in the Shadow Ball to make it do absolutely nothing. And of course, Lickitung is quite tanky. My goodness, that HP stat is pretty high though. Here I'm going to let it in the Body Slam go. I'm going to throw in another Sky Attack to do some tremendous amount of damage here. Bring it down into the red. And to be honest though, Lickitung, you gotta love it though. And even though like I'm just not that big into it like other people are, it's just not one of my favorites, of course. And I do like the yellow on the shiny though. It just, I know it doesn't suit my personal taste towards shiny Pokemon, but I like it though. Here my opponent having another Bastion. Like, my gosh, Bastion is so common though. And of course I'm gonna throw right before they try to reach Stone Edge, so yeah, and he just quits. Moving on to the next match, we got another Trevenant lead. Now, to be fair, Trevenant is a very common Pokemon to see in the Great League as well as the Ultra League. And to be fair, like, there are some matchups that the XL one can flip over that the non-XL can't. Like Scrafty in the 2-2. Here I throw in an extra. I just got a little cautious though because I just didn't know if mine would win CMP, as I had said before. Here, my opponent having a Stunfisk. Now, this is pretty tricky because what happened is that, as you're going to see right here, they're at 5 Mud Shots. And they shielded 6, 7, 8. And I catch the Seed Bomb, or Seed Bomb, Earthquake on the Noctowl. That was just epic, though. Oh my god, that was so good. And of course, there's a Zoom roll in the back, so maybe there's a chance that we might win this. Who knows? Like, oh my god. Like, catching that Earthquake was just mwah, chef's kiss, I guess. But at the same time, it was just interesting to see. And of course, they have Hydro Pump, which really catches me off guard because usually I was thinking, why couldn't you just throw in the Ice Beam to begin with? And of course, they anticipated the switch back in the Lantern. We can survive an Earthquake here, which we barely do. We can just throw in a Surf here, and that's a good game well played to my opponent. I appreciate the match, and I love it a lot. Next opponent having a Pelipper. Now, Pelipper is kind of a tricky one to deal with, since, like, it outpaces you, and we all know the sinuses of Pelipper outpacing Trevenant here. I throw in a Seed Bomb to see if we could do some damage. We grab a shield, and of course they're going to get off another one. I do want to get off a Shadow Ball before I die, though, because to do some neutral damage here against Pelipper rather than having to bait again, and they let it go. And of course they have as a Toxicroak. We can now line up the Noctowl. They have a Galarian Stunfisk. I have a Lantern. Now, this is very scary here because, like, I could have just stayed in, you know, but the thing is my Noctowl doesn't have an attack break point against their G-Fisk, although it is very dependent on IVs, though. I ended up letting an Earthquake go. I know it's silly, but what can you really do? Here I go in for a Surf, and let's see if we're able to, but nope, we're not able to, and yeah, this is going to cost me the game. We can let the first Rock Slide go. We do have to be anticipated about the switch here. I'm just going to build up some energy and go for Shadow Ball here to do some neutral damage. We bring it down into the red here, and I'm going to shield up to preserve health because Toxicroak is still fairly healthy here. They throw in a second Rock Slide. I do have to be mindful of the switch, and back comes in the Toxicroak. I didn't want them throwing an extra counter, or else then they would have gone off a Mud Bomb, and of course we're able to secure the KO, so that's a good game, very well played. Next opponent having an Altaria. Now, Altaria is pretty troublesome, like Dragonite, but not as glassy, because like Altaria is pretty tanky though, because the amount of defense it has, and I'm going to let the Sky Attack go and then trust in Lantern to do some neutral damage to it with Spark. That's what exactly I'm going to do. They have a Water Gun Lantern, so this matchup's a little bit less scary for my Lantern, since like I'm charging up energy at a higher rate than their Water Guns are. So that's a added bonus to see. I'm going to shield up here because I don't want to like get hit by a Thunderbolt, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to overload on energy so I can like do some damage with the Thunderbolt, take him down, and that's exactly what I'm going to do here. And what are they doing? They go into Toxicroak. I go into Noctowl, and she brings back in the Altaria. I'm probably going to let this go. Also, I realized that probably like most of these people here are also like legend rank players from in the past. From my opponent, she has the Elisa outfit, so I'm guessing she's probably a season 7 legend. So, but that's all there is to say, because like, now comes the Toxicroak. I failed to get off the Sky Attack, and I'm just going to bait with a Surf here, hoping to get a shield, which we do. I'm going to shield up here, and then maybe, just maybe, there's a chance that we can like survive one Mud Bomb. I know it doesn't hit hard, but still, like, Lantern does have a lot of HP though. We survive it. We're going to throw in another Surf, and that's a good game, well played. Okay, next opponent having a Galvantula. Now, like I said, Noctowl doesn't want to deal with this thing here, because we all know Noctowl does not appreciate spiders that shoot electricity out of their body. Here my opponent goes for a lunge, and to be fair, I'm going to build up to the C-Bomb here. Well, I could have just thrown Shadow Ball, but even if I did, it wouldn't be necessary, because yeah, it would be resisted damage. But I decided, you know what, let's go for Shadow Ball, see if we can secure the KO. But they double shields, like, whoa. Even though we're at -2, we're able to get the KO, which is nice. My opponent having another Medicham. Like, man, Medicham is so common. And of course, there's Deoxys. And with shields down, Noctowl gets to go to town. Oh my, that Shadow Ball did a big amount of damage. And I happen to catch, hopefully, the Thunderbolt onto Lantern. Yep, it is a Thunderbolt, so that's good for me. And of course, I'm going to let the next move go. It is a Psycho Boost, and doesn't do a lot of damage though, because like, even though it has a very high damage per energy, it does lower attack by 2 stages though. I'm just going to go for a Surf to secure the KO. Back comes in the Medicham. I'm just going to throw in a Thunderbolt, do some decent damage here, and I don't know what's going on with my opponent here. I can just build up to a Sky Attack, and they just probably have quit the match though. And with that, that is a good game, well played to my opponent. Next opponent having a Lantern, a shiny one as a matter. I did not notice it was shiny though, because it's very hard to tell. Here my opponent goes into Sableye, I go into Noctowl, and honestly, this is kind of a neutral matchup. And oh my gosh, they just threw in the return. Oh man, that really hurt. Oh my goodness. They shield a Sky Attack, and you know what, I'm going to throw in another Sky Attack just to secure some tremendous amount of damage, and we bring it down into the red here. If I go for a shield, they're just going to farm me down, of course, since, we could try, but we're able to. And of course, they bring back in the Lantern. I'm just going to go for a Shadow Ball here right before I go down, to do some damage. And basically, I can have the alignment I need. I go for another Shadow Ball to do some neutral damage here. See if we can bring it into the red. Sure enough, we do. We can go into Trevenant. They have a Noctowl. I go into Lantern, and I think this is pretty much a good game. My opponent should just surrender at this point, because there's no reason to just stay in here. I go for a Thunderbolt or maybe a Surf, and right here I decided to let this move go. It ends up becoming a Sky Attack, which, very good call by me. Like, I don't know how I called it, but yet, good job. But anyways, he shields the Surf, I throw Thunderbolt, and he goes down. All he has left is the Lantern. I'm just going to let this move go, because even if it is a Thunderbolt, I'm going to let this go. Go into the Trevenant. I know this is overkill with C-Bomb, but I just want to secure the KO because I'm that greedy. Man, this team like really put in work though, if I know how to use it correctly though. Here my opponent having a Pelipper. Now, Last time they shielded the Seed Bomb, but this time maybe they'll shield again, and sure enough they did. And it ends up becoming CMP. Maybe they'll bait. Nope, they threw in a Hurricane. Really? Threw me off guard. And of course they have Sableye. I go into Noctowl, and to be honest, like, wow. I just can't believe he correctly shielded with the bait, but I ended up not calling the Hurricane because I thought he was gonna throw in a what is it, Weather Ball, but nope, he ends up throwing a Hurricane, which really caught me off guard. And of course, he brings back in the Pelipper, and I'm just going to throw in another Sky Attack right before they unleash another Hurricane and Rocket like one, bring it down, but of course they have a Stunfisk. Now, this is very scary, because Stunfisk beats the 2, and of course I can only hit it neutrally with the Shadow Ball. Here I hope I caught a Rock Slide, which I did, thank goodness. And I'm going to throw in a Surf and hoping that it is a CMP tie to the Earthquake. But he lets it go, which is kind of odd. I'm going to let this move go. Another Rock Slide. And now I'm getting closer to the red, which is like, oh boy, this is very dangerous. Shields the Surf. CMP to the Rock Slide. And this is kind of problematic. And of course, he gets extra farm. I'm going to try and see if I can get to Wing Attack, and thank goodness I did. I have a shield left over. I'm just going to throw in Sky Attack, take him out, and that's a good game, well played. Next opponent having a Medicham. Man, what is with everyone running Medicham? I want to know. Brings in Noctowl. I go into Lantern, and we could just go for a Thunderbolt. He threw a Shadow Ball here, and it's going to do some decent damage here. I'm going to go for a Thunderbolt here to do some big damage, but he shields, which is like, what the heck? Now, I know for a fact he was probably a little off, but nope, it's alright. And pretty much here, I'm just going to go for a Surf here to get a bait to see if we can grab their last shield, but nope. Ends up becoming CMP, which is kind of nerve-wracking here. I'm going to let this go. Ends up becoming Shadow Ball. I'm going to throw in another Surf. I know it seems silly, but at this point, this is pretty much a good game. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to like. A like is very much appreciated. Subscribe if you haven't already. Be sure to ring that bell for notifications. And until next time, this is Mr. Mimikyu, and I am saying peace out. And of course, here comes Bastion, and they just quit the match. You thought it was over here, but nope, I got a bonus battle here. Here my opponent leads with Shadow Swampert, I lead with Trevenant. They go into their own Trevenant, I go into Noctowl, and he just quits.